With Central Florida Salute YouTube. Once again, we're down here in the Villages, and I have an Air Force captain, right?
Yeah, right. Right.
Right, Dan Cagle.
Right, sir. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got your name right.
Well, you only got half of my service right, though.
Oh, yeah. You were Air Force and?
Marine Corps.
Marine Corps.
I am a Marine.
So you were Air Force first, and then you went into Marines?
I did, correct, huh?
Usually it goes the other way.
Well, nobody said I was smart. I just got in, that was all.
All right, well, we'll get to that, Dan. But you're from Illinois.
Southern Illinois, a little town called Pinckneyville. My mom and dad, Dan Cagle and Dan and Edna, they were married 65 years. I think I mentioned you, I've been married 49 now to my Marine, and she's quite a gal. Anyway, middle-class Christian family, happy days environment being raised. I mean, it was just unbelievable.
You know, I read in the book about you. You're a music fan. Big Elvis fan, is that correct?
Well, I do like Elvis.
You had a band.
Well, I did.
Would you like to do a little Elvis for us?
Probably not. I would like to do whatever I could, but that's after I've had maybe a vodka.
Yeah. We could do that too.
All right. Yeah, I started playing in bars and nightclubs when I was 14 years old.
Wow.
And had a great band. The other guys were great musicians, and I did that all the way through high school and through college. I was working 2-3 nights a week, so it was a job, not a meet once a week, play out of your garage thing. When I joined, my group was Danny Cagle and the Escorts, and then I joined a group called the Egyptian Combo, which up until 5 years ago, that Egyptian Combo was still playing music. All the guys were in their 60s and 70s.
So if I go on Amazon or someplace, I can find it?
Absolutely. You can find my records and their records. We did about 6 records. Back in the early 70s, we had one called Gale Winds. It was in the top 10. We got to do Dick Clark, that kind of thing. Then we did a theme from Dr. Zhivago, and we did some others. And it was a great opportunity. Nice kids and good guys. We all stayed in touch over the years. And the band, I went to the end of the Air Force and went on to flight school, and all of them volunteered and went in as a band, as a group, to Vietnam.
So they were playing music in
Vietnam, and I'm flying airplanes, dropping bombs. That's true.
I think they got the better part of the deal, but still, we need men like you.
Was a big kick to the head? Okay.
So you were with Buff.
I flew. That was Big Ugly Fellows, and
that's what it stands for. A lot of people don't know what that stands for. Mm-hmm. Big ugly fellows.
Big ugly fellows. Yeah.
I've heard it other ways.
If you like to buy the Brooklyn Bridge, I'll sell that to you too.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I did that. I started. Well, I went to Southern Illinois University, about the only college I could get in, but they had ROTC there, Air Force. That was mandatory. I took it, got my commission. That was in June '66. Went to flight school in Enid, Oklahoma. Got out of flight school. In flight school they give you your assignment by how you rank in the class. Well, I got B-52, so you can imagine how I ranked in the class. Not as high as I would like to.
Are you saying the B-52s?
Well, would you rather fly or drive a truck with 8 engines, or one with 1 engine, 1 man, 1 seat? It's driving a sports car or driving a tractor trailer. And the B-52, saying that, flying the airplane was one thing, but the crew that you had there, and I'll show you a picture of them later also, but the crews were incredible. To have 6-man crew, and I've got a picture of those later. 6-man crew, and the camaraderie that you have with those gentlemen is something to remember all your life.
Oh yeah.
And that was the best thing about flying the B-52. And at that time, the B-52s were part of the Strategic Air Command before it was done away with.
I was part of that too. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There were some comments on that. SAC too. Yeah. So I did. I went through, as I said, flight school in Oklahoma. My assignment was actually to. I went through nuclear weapons school after flight school, and then from there to learn how to fly the B-52. I think it's called air crew training in the B-52 at Merced Air Force Base outside of San Francisco, Merced, California. Castle Air Force Base. Sorry. And I was assigned to Orlando, Florida at McCoy Air Force Base. We used to have a nice Air Force Base here in Orlando. And that was in the late 60s when Disney World was just coming to Orlando, and I was a young bachelor and having a good time, so Orlando was a pretty good place.
Oh, yeah.
But after about 2 months that I was on the crew in Orlando at McCoy, got orders to go to Southeast Asia, Vietnam, flying the B-52. At that time, it was mostly out of Guam. It would be like 6 months tour duty, and then out of there, though, I think we did get assigned out of there where we'd also fly out of Okinawa, which was a great place to be. It was very nice, especially before it reverted back to Japanese control. It was very cost effective. I remember going out and getting Kobe steaks for $2 and things like that. And when they reverted back to the Japanese with the yen and the dollar, that changed pretty quick.
Yeah.
But anyway, we used to fly out of Guam, and Guam is interesting.
When I was in, that was one of the places you were going to go, Utapao or Guam.
Right.
And from what I understood, there was a girl behind every tree in Guam. There wasn't any trees.
That's probably very true.
Yeah, so I didn't want to go there.
There's some interesting stories about Guam.
If you like fishing, you could go there.
Oh, yeah. If you like washouts, we used to have the movie theaters outside. You go sit there and you take your beer.
Utapao had that too.
Yeah, oh, yeah. But Utapao, who cared there? There was other places to go at Utapao. There's great churches and a lot of scenic stuff. So we flew out of Guam, but the runway at Guam was kind of interesting. You'd mentioned earlier when we were talking about the runway out of McCoy, how long and wide it was. Well, a B-52, you're going to need at least 200 feet of width. And out of Guam, hot, a little humid, so your engines have to run a little bit longer to get that 456,000 airplane to launch in the air. So usually that happens at about 160 knots. Well, to make sure that you're okay, whenever you start your takeoff roll, you hit a stopwatch. and then at a certain speed and a certain time you should be there. And that's your, what they call S1, which means, okay, in 30 or 20 seconds, I've hit 110 mile an hour. I can continue to go on. All right. So I used to love with the new co-pilots would come over. They'd always be the one that would start your watch. So we'd get up to 60 knots and say, start your watch, and they'd start it. And they'd be looking for timing. They'd be watching the speed on the speedometer, and it'd come up to about 60, 70, 80, 90, 110, 120. And I think, wow, this is great. 130, and we'd pass the time already, so we're good to go. And then all of a sudden they'd see the speed go 130, 120, 115. Their eyes get the size of watermelons, right? Well, because the runway at Guam has a dip in it. So as you're going down the first part of the runway, the airspeed picks up, and then it slows down for a little bit as you're going back up the other side. And I'd never tell a guy that because I'd love to see the reaction, but I'd have to hold on to the throttles to make sure he didn't try to abort. So that was one of the things flying out of Guam, and then you'd get it, you'd fly out, then you'd fly over a 500-foot cliff and then the ocean, and then for the next 14 hours or so, all you saw was water outside of when you went in country to do your missions. So, yeah, that was the buff to B-52. I'll tell you some stories later whenever you want. Three particular
I'm
missions.
listening.
Okay.
Just remember, it's a family show.
Well, these are three of my favorite missions that I remember.
I read in the book about a hangar. Was in the Bombay?
Oh yes, yeah. Well,
I want you to tell that one.
Okay, well, I kind of named these. I got to remember what I named these things here.
You go ahead, your order, what you want, whatever.
Okay,
it's your show, brother.
Oh no. Anyway, that was a pre-briefing at Guam. There's the runway at Guam. Taking off. We were actually flying out of Utapao, and I called it, said we just bombed Okinawa, is what I called this mission. And we were going into Vietnam, North Vietnam this time. We were still flying over the north in early '68. They didn't stop flying over the north until later. So we were headed up to an area called Vinh, which is a airfield, North Vietnamese airfield, just north of the DMZ. We were going up there. They had some fuel dumps and supplies, et cetera, to wipe those out. Well, so we were flying up. We'd taken off, normal, good routine out of Okinawa, climb up to about 38,000, head to Vietnam, come in there, get ready to set up on the bomb run, and we go in. We open the bomb bay doors, the bombardier or the radar nav, he says, bombs away, he hits a pickle switch, the bombs here, they'll go down, and then we come off the target and go home. Now, that's the way it's supposed to work.
But it doesn't always, right?
Well, the radar navigator who sits downstairs, we don't see each other, but we talk to each other. He has a bunch of like white lights in front of him, and each white light stands for a station that 1 to 3 bombs is on. So when you drop all of your bombs, all of those lights are supposed to be out. So we turn off, shut the bomb bay doors, and radar says, hey, aircraft commander, we got a problem. So what's that? And he said, we got a light on, and he told me which station it was, which meant we had a bomb hanging, which is not unusual. You get that occasionally. I mean, sometimes you're carrying 108 bombs. That's a lot of bombs to be carrying and to get every one of them to fall off. So we send the navigator back. There's a crawl space in the B-52s. You can crawl from the navigator's area back through, just like you've seen in the movies where the guy goes down the tunnel and etc. But our navigator can crawl through this on hands and knees, and he can get back to see the bomb bay, and he can actually see what the issue is. And he says, well, everything's fine. He said, we got one hanging up in station such and such. And so he said, fine, come on back. That's great. So we go ahead and we fly the mission returning to Okinawa, and at a certain height out, like we climbed up, I think, going back to about close to 50,000 feet. They normally do that. We normally come back at about 42 to 46,000. But I think we're around 48,000 feet. So at 48,000 feet, you can imagine it takes a while to get down to the landing pattern. So we calculated out, and this particular one at 48,000 feet was about 100 miles out. So when we reach over, pull the throttles back to 80% power, you go to air brakes 4, you drop your gear. And then you start your descent at 4,000 foot per minute. As the plane got slower, you lower your flaps and you go ahead and land. Well, as we were up at 48,000 feet, we started our descent down, pulled the throttles back to 80%, pulled the air brakes back to 4, reached over and dropped the gear, and when the gear goes down, you hear thunk. Well, we heard thunk, thunk. The second thunk was not good. and at the same time, the radar navigator says, pilot, the light went out.
Yeah.
And so, which meant the light was no longer in that station. And our bomb bay doors are shut. So the navigator crawls back, and we look down there, and he looks and he says, oh my God, he says, we got a 500-pounder sticking through our doors, right through the door, the door is closed. And he said, it looks like it's sticking through about 3 to 4 feet nose below. Now, that's not good. No. you got a couple of issues. One is the bombs come off the rack and a pin comes out. Now, that doesn't take them very far to get that done. But then to really arm the bomb, there's a little propeller on the front of the bomb, and it has so many spins. So we got that nose sticking out in the middle of the air, and we think it's probably had enough spins that it's armed. So we think we've got a 500-pound, armed 500-pound bomb sticking out of the nose of our airplane, all right? And so now we're trying to figure out, well, all right, number one, if we land hard, is that thing going to
charge?
Yeah, or is it that propeller going to spin and blow up while it's still in the belly of our airplane? We don't know. So what can you do? I'm not going to jump out of the airplane, unless I know there's something wrong. So we come around, we do a straight in, we come down, we do a nice grease landing, roll out, bomb didn't go off, pulled over to the taxiway, the ordnance guys were there, they came out and they told me, they said, look, you guys are lucky, you won't believe it. He said, but the propeller that spins around, when it went through the doors, your bomb bay doors, it bent that propeller back and it couldn't move, it couldn't spin. The bomb wasn't on. So that was my oh crap.
Did you spend some money on the lottery that night, or?
Yeah. Well, who knows that? I don't remember much about that night. Anyway, so we were fortunate. Yeah, we were. So that was one of my favorite stories. Another one was again out of Okinawa. And I've got some pictures here. I wish, in fact, I'm going to try to put that up here because there we go. That's a cockpit of a B-52. And it looks like a whole bunch of gauges and stuff like that. But if this dummy can figure it out, anybody can figure it out because those are repetitive. I wish you could see it better, but there's 8 rows of lights there. And each row is for one of the jet engines on the airplane. So basically keep everything even and you're in pretty good shape. But in the middle there also you'll see the throttles that come back and the different things. And on the right side is where the co-pilot sits, and right in front of him there are fuel gauges as to where is your fuel. Well, in the B-52 you can't feed, well, first of all, in the B-52 that weighs 450,000 pounds, you've got 260,000 pounds of gas.
Wow.
So you got to be careful how you put gas through the engines or your center of gravity can get out of shape pretty quick.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So, there's a procedure that you do, and the co-pilot does it, or he feeds the gas from the auxiliary tanks a certain way into the main tanks that feed the engines. And it has to be done that way, or your CG could get nose jumping up high on you, or tail, or whatever. So you've got to really follow that procedure, how you bring the fuel from auxiliary tanks that are in the wings and front and back into your main tanks that feed the engines. Well, we're rolling leveling out on takeoff, getting up to, I don't know, about 150, 160 miles an hour. And in the middle there's a big wheel, about yay big, and that's called a trim wheel. As you go faster in an airplane, the nose has a tendency to go up, and you're pushing on this wheel or stick or yoke, as they call it, forward to keep the nose down. And as the more speed you get, the harder it is to do that. So the trim wheel there is to take the pressure off of that. That's all it is. And trim wheels don't usually move more than an inch or two. As we lift up, and I think we pulled the gear up, all of a sudden that trim wheel starts going spinning. And I was a co-pilot at that time. The aircraft commander looks over at me and hits me. It says, take your foot or your thumb off the trim button. Well, I didn't have it on the trim button. We had runaway trim, they call it. And there's a switch there that you can flip, and it'll kill the trim. It stops it. And so we climbed up, and we didn't think much about it, and we hadn't raised our flaps yet, and all of a sudden I realized that our aux tanks, or gas tanks, were not feeding our main gas tanks. We'd had complete DC power failure, and that's a big deal to have complete DC power failure in an aircraft. So there was things that didn't work. Flaps didn't work.
Oh.
And our flaps were all the way down. Moving your fuel from the auxiliary tanks, the main tanks, to feed the engines, that didn't work. So there were issues with having a DC power failure. So we even ended up getting, you remember talking about let's get a hold of SAC, and they'd have some guys that always talk to you on technical problems. And we had them on board trying to figure out what to do with the airplane. How are you going to land it? You know, there's no way to dump fuel on it so you can get down light enough to land it. I mean, you're still a 456,000-pound airplane that doesn't like to land, you know, unless it's a lot lighter. You know, it's dropped 200 pounds or 200,000 pounds of bombs, and you know, it's got rid of a whole bunch of gas. Then you can land it. But when it weighs 456,000 pounds full of gas and fuel, you're not going to land it. You're not. It's not going to do it. So we got to figure out, what do we do? Well, the first thing you think about is we're going to eject the bombs, right? We're going to get rid of them. We got bombs on the outer wings.
Yeah.
And internally but we got one problem with that. If we eject the external bombs and they go straight back, and our flaps are hanging down, are they going to hit the flaps and ignite? So we don't know that. So so we finally decide that what we're going to do is to slow down to, I think it was about 150. We could have it at 150. Eject the bombs out of the bomb bay and out of the wing, and pray that everything went well. And which, thank God, it did. That's exactly what we did. This all happened pretty quick because I'm running out of gas in the main tanks because they can't pump gas into them. So we had to circle around, and then came in, and we made a landing and got off of the runway again. It's twice at Okinawa.
Wow.
Okay, so, and then the third, I think, I don't know if the Air Force got mad at me or whatever, but we got called in. Now, my crew, this was my crew then, this was in Utapao, and my crew's a little rowdy. Most of us guys are single. And in the SAC, you used to wear these red scarves, you know, it depended on your squadron. It could be red or white or whatever color. We hated them. We never wore them to the briefings or anything. Never polished our boots. You know, we weren't into that. And you had maids that would have to leave them alone. You know, and you know, iron a flight suit? Are you kidding me? You know, but everybody else had theirs ironed. Well, we caught a lot of grief over that, and we got a call in one time to Colonel Moran before a briefing, and he chewed us out about that pretty good. So we had a party, and that was all over. But it was about a month later we got a call in again as an individual crew to come in before the regular briefing. And we go into this one, and this time it was a briefing that was going to send us up in the Plaine de Jars area, which is right up in the northern part of North Vietnam, right up by the Chinese border, right up where B-52s shouldn't be. And what we were going to do was to fly up that way, head north like we're going towards China, turn direct east north of Hanoi, and head in like we're going into Vietnam. But we're not going to go into Vietnam. What we're trying to do is to get the MiGs to come see us coming across and get them to come across the border after us, because we've got F-4 MiG caps that are flying over. And the reason they're wanting this is about that time the talks were going on, the peace talks were going on in Paris, France there. What they call Paris Accords or whatever they call them.
Paris Peace Accord.
Right. And so they figured if they could get the North Vietnamese to come across the border, that gives them more power in their bargaining at the peace accords, and it was going to be a great thing for them. Well, we went on up, we headed, and as I say, the first night we did this, we had to turn early, and then the fighter plane turned, so neither one of us crossed the border. Well, got to do it another night. Right, and the second night we'll go up and we're going north again, right back up the plains of Jars, which is China, North Vietnam. We got a MiG cap above us, and we head in, and the MiGs get called up earlier, and we'd learned a little bit. We start back a little farther, to give them time to get across the border. We did. The MiG came across the border. Two MiGs came across the border after us, and our F-4 did a great job of keeping them off of us. In fact, so great they shot down a MiG. And so they're with
shot down a MiG,
and so they're with the whole Paris Peace Accord bargaining tool that we were supposed to do. So those are the three messages or missions that I remember well.
When you were awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross, what missions were that?
Who knows? You know how it was. Well,
I don't know. That's why I asked.
There were several things. When we went over, and I think one of your earlier guys, David mentioned it, the old 25 mission crush is what it used to be for World War II. Yeah. And it went up to 50 for some of the others. And flying the Buffs out of there, it was, you didn't get a go-home free card. I flew 260 missions, I guess, over there.
Wow.
Buffs. And on the 200th mission is what we were told, if you made 200 missions, you earned your DFC. I had the Air Medal, but with 13 oak leaf clusters. You got one every 20 missions is what it was over there. So, yeah. So it changed a little bit, but that was it. And of course, I'm sure a lot of that was mentioned on the secret mission that I went on as far as what we did to go up to draw the MiGs across. But specifically, my DFC never said, what specific mission that was on. So,
I told you before that I was stationed over in Utapao.
Yeah. 2
TDYs and a PCS. I remember one time we had to cross the runway, with the bomb loaders and MJ-1s. And I watched this B-52 coming in, and he went like that. I never thought that a plane that big could do that.
Did he go around? Is that what it was?
I don't know what he did. I'm just watching him, and all of a sudden he went. I didn't know it was his last mission or what it was, or why.
The only reason I would know is if he had some issue. And
maybe because I was the idiot sitting over by the side of the runway.
Or could have been on the runway. That's maybe why he went around.
No, I wasn't on the runway.
No, but he could have, Utapao was a very, very busy place, as you know.
Oh, yeah. I remember we used to send, Guam and Okinawa would send up 15 apiece, and we'd send up 30.
Oh, yeah.
For a ball game.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And at the end of the runway, that's where the movie theater was.
Oh, yeah.
But if you were there when a ball game went off, you'd hear, well, I was going to go.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Then there was a little bit more talk. You never figure out what the movie was about.
That was a great place to fly a B-52 because the missions were anywhere from 2:15 to 3 hours, 3:15 maybe, and you were constantly busy from pre-planning, doing the walk around. We even got there early enough to watch some of these guys the way they load the bombs on there, and it's not slow. The guys that work those carts, I forgot what they call them, but they know what they were doing. They would load those bombs up there incredibly fast. It was just something to watch. So anyway, that was. I did 4 tours over there, and the reason I kept 4 tours.
TDYs or PCSs?
Well, it ranged depending. I went anywhere from 120 was the shortest, and the longest was 200 days.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but I kept volunteering to go back over, and it was for 2 reasons. One is I didn't want to settle early in a B-52 and have to sit in a building for the whole week. But 2 is I quite like the combat pay, even though it's $65.
Pay.
$65 is a lot of money then, and your tax deduction. And I had fun over there, and I loved flying the airplane.
I got to tell you a story.
Okay.
When I went over there one time, and I was getting overseas pay, I came back to the States, and they were still paying me.
Oh.
And then I went back over again, and I got a paycheck for $1. I never cashed it. It's in my room.
Oh, no.
That was my paycheck.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
We didn't spend it all in one place.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
I called home and said, Ma, send me some money. I'm broke.
Okay. Well, I stayed in, I think, about 6 years, a little more than 6 years in the Air Force. I was a captain.
And the Marine Corps.
And then I went in, I figured, the war got over in Vietnam. And I came out of flight school direct to learn, going to B-52 training, the nuclear training, direct to my McCoy Air Force Base, and within 60 days, I was flying combat missions, in Southeast Asia. And I'd come back, and I might be home for 3 months. I'd turn around and get back. So all I knew was combat flying. I don't know what I had, probably 2,700 hours, and over 2,000 hours was combat flying, because that's all I'd ever done. And when the war was over, I thought, well, maybe the Marines would be fighting somebody. So I put in an application for inter-service transfer, and I got why they picked me, I have no idea. They told me there was 300 people that had applied, and they picked one. Now, why I have I was a good pilot, but not that good, and so somewhere divine, something stepped in and took over and put me in the Corps, because in the Marine Corps, that's where I met my wife. She was in legal there. I didn't meet her professionally. I mean, I met her. Oh. Yeah, I wasn't in legal trouble, but she was in legal there, and we met, and we now have, we had twins, boy and girl twins. And have 5 grandchildren now. This September will be our 49th wedding anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So that was, Debbie was my biggest thrill in the thing, going into the Corps to meet my wife. But the second greatest thing was I went from, remember my hometown, Pinckneyville, Illinois? I was telling you about small town Illinois, happy days growing up, mom and dad married 65 years.
Singing with the kids.
Yeah, having a good time, all of this stuff. And now I'm flying 1 man, 1 seat, 1 engine airplanes.
Now, where were you going? You're flying these, you were just basically in the States flying them around? Or did you go overseas,
no, I didn't have an overseas tour with the A4. I flew the A4M, and it's a fantastic airplane, but the thrill I got was our squadron deployed to John F. Kennedy aircraft carrier. And I had my Air Force wings, but I couldn't wear my Navy wings, my aviator wings, until I'd carrier qualified. So I got to go out and actually carrier qualify on the John F. Kennedy in that A4M. That was a kick. That was a thrill.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you did it all. Carrier flights and B-52s.
It was fun. After the service, went into the corporate world. I enjoyed that. I was lucky there. I had some pretty good assignments and jobs. And then one day, I was president and CEO of a mobile telephony company here in the States, and I was traveling way too much. And I had 3-year-old twins at home, and it was either go and be with the kids or keep working. So I resigned.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
You married a Marine.
Right.
You didn't have an option.
Right. That's true. That's true. Very true. It still don't. But so anyway, I resigned from there, and I'm going to have to drop back just a little bit in time here for my pilot training days. Again, Southern Illinois, very waspish. Our town is primarily Polish and German, and I'm going to flight school, and one of the first guys they introduced me to is this guy named Ahmed, and I can't even say the word Ahmed, right? And he's from Saudi Arabia, and we understand he's a prince. And then we hear his name is Mossad. And then later we hear his house says, we don't know who the hell he is. Excuse my language. We just called him a crazy Arab, and got along with him well, and we became very close friends. But I swear to you, I resigned from Nokia. We wanted to keep it quiet because I was a senior executive. We didn't want to release it to the news or anything. 2 days later, I get a call from, he's now a general, General Sederi. He says, Don, he calls me Don, not Dan. He says, yes, Ahmed, because I can't say his name either. And he says, I understand you don't have a job anymore. And I said, well, yeah, how'd you find that out? They said, never mind, I have a job for you. You're coming to Saudi Arabia. And I said, what am I doing in Saudi Arabia? He says, anything.
Anything you want to do.
He says, I've got a house for you, bring your family, you come to Saudi Arabia. So Debbie and I thought we'd go and try it for a year. And we were there just long enough for Gulf War I to break out. And so with the kids, we went through Gulf War I in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Saw 27 Scuds come in. Kids were wearing gas masks to school before we were able to get them all out of the kingdom and back to the States. So I ended up, Debbie and the kids, the family though, the family was there over 10 years. I spent over 20 years in Saudi Arabia working with state and commercial sections.
You've had an interesting life, my friend.
So I retired a few years ago, came down here. We've been living the life as much as we can, and
well,
and again, I've been talking about myself here, and it makes me, when I get started, I hate to stop because I realize what I'm doing, but when you get down here and you see the group of retired veterans, our veterans that we have here, and the stories that you hear. I was listening to Joe Finch the other night, and I've known Joe for a couple of years, and my mouth's going like this. Listen to what happened to Joe and some of the stories he was telling. It was incredible, and I've known the guy, and it's all the way through
Joe
here.
and I go back.
Oh, wow.
We go back, actually, the first time I did a show with him, it was 2010 or 2011. I think it was 2011, because I started doing this stuff in 2010.
Wow.
And I was floored when I.
Yeah.
But you know what? I've had the honor of meeting you and Dave over there, and a lot of people. Mitch, who lives here, and of course our famous World War II guy here. Pardon me? Irvin Locker. And we, not just here, but all over Lake County, and even in Europe. I did 5 shows in Europe, and it is amazing what the American people do with these American soldier men and women, because I've had a lot of women on my show. Catherine Wilgus is a very good friend of mine, Lieutenant Commander, retired, and it's just. Wow. I'm blessed to be able to do this. The only reason I can do this is because of that lady that's sitting over there.
Usually happens to us, doesn't it? Some lady behind us making it possible.
Anywhere you go to a Legion Post or VFW, it's the women that get the work done.
Exactly right.
You know?
Amen.
We got one lady here, so, she agrees. But anyway, it is a wonderful place, and you do meet a lot of great people.
Yeah.
Did you ever know Bonnie Barnhart?
I think I sat with him, Joe, and you have to remind me. At my first meeting, he was at my table. He was in his late 90s then.
No. Barney was not in his 90s.
Oh.
He never made it.
Oh, okay.
Barney was he probably died about when he was 75, 76.
Oh, okay.
You're talking about Jack Howard.
Right, that's what I was talking about.
Jack, yeah. Jack is on my show, but I never got to interview him per se. I did a documentary on the B-17, and he was standing there looking at the planes. And I had two other people with me who were both World War II veterans.
Wow.
Wally Lambert, who was in on D-Day with the Higgins, and
Wow.
somebody, and Al Colbath, who was also a World War II veteran. So I had the three of them. That's when I met Jack, and I said I want to do a show with Jack. And then I guess he got into an airplane and hurt his back or something. Anyway, he's with the
100 years old.
Yeah.
He was flying a Stearman.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he was.
Yeah, I did a show with a Stearman too. I've flown on two B-17s, what is it, B-20, the one that dropped the atom bomb, B-26?
B-24, right?
No.
Yeah, 24.
Yeah, well, I've flown in.
B-29.
B-29.
B-29, I'm sorry,
I flew on a B-29, did a documentary on that.
With Nimitz
And they tried to get me to crawl through the tube,
Oh, yeah.
and I wouldn't do it because I was too big. And so the lady who ran the TV station at the time, she went through the tube.
Wow.
So, yeah, she tried to kill me a couple times. She wanted me to parachute out of an airplane. Guy says, how much you weigh? I says, I weigh about 230, 240. Oh, you can't be over 200 pounds. I says, you're in. Of course, she wouldn't do it. But anyway,
great.
I appreciate you coming on the show, and this is what we do. We are not for profit, and it's all about service, sacrifice, honor, and educating. And that's one of the words that we try to do is educate, because kids nowadays, you tell them about the Hanoi Hilton, they go, oh, that's a hotel, right? Not exactly. But anyhow, I think we're going to wrap this up. And Dan, I'll tell you, it was a real pleasure. After this interview, if you're going to be around for a while, I have some photos I want to show you.
Oh, great. I'd love to see. All right.
You ready?
I'm always.
You know how we do it because you just saw it.
I do. Right.
To all our veterans out there, our active military and their families, we salute you for all you do. Till next time.